Stand by. All right, many thanks for joining us, especially for those that are just joining us here on Morning at NTV this 4th day of October. It's a Friday, no doubt, and things pivot from the overly political or socio-political to aspects of society, the arts, and specifically, many times, the music industry. Why? As we enter the weekend, Friday, your mind ought to get into the phases of life where you get a little bit laid back, but in a lighter tone. We'll be talking copyright law and issues, especially scrutinizing the latest regime and the framework under which artists are doing their job, including giving you the music. I'll be introducing my guests very shortly, but first, without preamble, copyright plays a critical role in ensuring that society's creative works are preserved. It's worth noting that lack of copyright would deny many creators the opportunity to make new works. Virtually all artists from time immemorial have been conventional in terms of finances. Such artists in the past relied on the state, the church, or sometimes just individuals in society who were wealthy to earn their own income. The market remained as the premier source of income for the sale of their artwork. In cases, all the other options appear to be less viable. This scenario is true even today, where art has turned out to be more of a profession than a mere pastime activity, and as stakeholders continue to fight over the copyright law to see the light of day. This morning, we speak to some people who are in that, who are parcel of that effort, but who also bear a critical insight and perspective on how it is working. Welcome to the program, Fina Mugera, artist.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
I'm avoiding this starstruck thing and stuff like that. Andrew Kagwa, a seasoned journalist and arts reporter with the Daily Monitor. Many thanks for making it again.
Thank you very much.
We do not take your time every Friday for granted. First, bring us up to speed with what's happening in the world of the arts with regard to copyright and the pulling of ropes, the tug of war, and everything that we hear and read about.
I actually did not really think you would start from there, because she's in the thick of things, but I personally don't even think it's happening right now, because I feel like we've been there for more than 20 years. The very first time I heard about the word copyright was around 2003. And then heard about it again in 2006. Heard about it again around 2009. But you see, every time it keeps coming back, the voices are usually different. For example, I think when I heard about copyright in 2009, the artists were not supporting it. Funny thing, at that time you had many, because I think UPRS was trying to confiscate people, like machines of people that were selling music, and then most of the artists at that time were saying, these people are promoting our music. And I got to learn at that time, most of these people used to get the music from the artists. And then they would play it on the streets, like put it on movies, and that's how music used to move. At that time, I had about copyright again. Now the artists were on board. So it's been that back and forth thing that has been happening. And then probably the past year, when Honorable Hilary Chiaga got a leave to make amendments, and then another group of artists was also trying to move a motion to get the same amendment. So it's a journey that we've been on for years. I truly hope right now we are getting to the end of it.
All right. The reason I started with you is because you hold a very good office when you're able to relay the sentiment within the industry on key issues, and many times the agenda setting aspects do play into the questioning that we want to achieve here on Morning at NTV. But we're glad we have Madame Fina Mugera with us. She's an artist. She's also I think, a critical player away from the music and the art itself when it comes to the efforts to ensure that things are clear, pain points are dealt with. Bring us up to speed with what's happening right now.
Thanks for that compliment. First, I would like to introduce myself to you. Again, my name is Fina. I'm the current vice chairperson of the Uganda National Culture Center and the general secretary of the Uganda Musicians Association and an advocate in the creative sector.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. First and foremost, I would like to thank Honorable Chiaga for this initiative in regards to copyright. At least we have not yet reached, but we are towards reaching there. In the last meeting we had with URSB Law Reform Commission, it was a validation meeting where we had to look through and see whether the suggestions made were included in that bill. Unfortunately, I might say fortunately or unfortunately, there are some which were included and others were left out. But I think all they might have, they had to include all so that they got at least saved from the parliament, from the table, but not removing them from the backside, because that was the reason as to why Honorable Chiaga was given a holiday to go and do consultations. We received a letter as Uganda National Culture Center on the 20th September. That is, I think, last week. They had provided the Copyright Neighboring Rights Amendment Bill, the draft. So the purpose of the letter was for us to look into the draft and then comment. So we had looked into the draft, but then still, in regards to the other meeting, the validation meeting, some things were not included in the draft. For example, we were yearning to see the copyright board in this amendment, because what is disturbing copyright, we don't have anywhere to converge as in copyright. This is where this one, the mandates are scattered. They are scattered when UCC, URSB, Ministry of Gender. To my surprise, this draft has given the minister a lot of powers when it comes to copyright. So we really need experts to work on things they're supposed to do. When it comes, you can't tell me that you're telling the minister to be in charge of the tariffs. These tariffs are supposed to be created by the creators, by the people themselves. We have CMOs, collecting societies, which are in charge of copyright. This draft is not strengthening the collecting societies. It is rather weakening them. We were opting, I thank Councillor Silva Chagulanyi. He has been a person, he has been a pivot when it comes to the insights in this copyright issue. So the only problem we have, it's not a problem, but we think it is a solution. We need a copyright board.
A copyright board.
Copyright board. But then for the last meeting we had at Ministry of Justice, they were like, the government is trying to merge. It's trying to merge some institutions, maybe to reduce on the expense administration. You know how Uganda is spending much on administration. So I think they're trying to merge. So there is a way they told us that if they happen to come up with a board, it is a little bit very, very big. And we as if we are like creating another institution.
Another institution.
So the Attorney General was suggesting that at least we can have a department, but still under URSB. But at this moment, when you say a department under URSB, okay, it can be a department, but then still, when you ask URSB at this moment, even if you have a problem of copyright infringement and then you go there, there is a way they keep tossing you around. Police, even police doesn't know. By the way, we need to use people who are really professionals in this thing. Even a policeman who is in that department has to have the knowledge about copyright. Then another issue, we requested for the private copy levy. before I go to the private copy levy, for this draft at least, we have gotten the 60% when it comes to call-back tunes. Recently, the artist was getting 1.8%, and government was getting 50%. And then the telecom companies were getting 35%. Actually, they just remembered the artist. Oh my God, we didn't give the artist. So they gave him 1.8. At this moment, I'm very happy that at least the 60% has been availed to the artist. But then, I'm still wondering about this statement. The rate referred to in subsection 2 shall be as follows: author or performer, 60% in words, then 30% in figures. So I'm still asking myself, is it 60% or 30%? But we are still going into that. But according to the way I understand, I think we have achieved the 60%, and the aggregator is at 8.5%. I don't know where it came from and who came up with this resolution of aggregators being the brokers to the telecom companies. Up to this time, I don't know why the artists cannot negotiate with the telecom company.
Because it will be very confusing.
Okay, that is why we decided that within the law, within the law, at least even to those artists who don't get the chance to negotiate with the telecom company, let it be 60%. But then, at the end of it, they said the minister may by statutory instrument published in the Gazette revised the rates specified in subsection. That one we said below minimum.
I think that's wrong.
It's wrong.
All right, Fina and Andrew, I know the whole copyright aspect and the controversies therein, especially with regard to levies and the tariffs, might be more confusing than anything else. But let me first attend to my audience right now in understanding this whole copyright issue. And I think you can help us very conveniently. What are the content products, if I could use that word, that people seek copyright for or on? When you talk about callback tunes, I do understand exactly what it is, but somebody out there might be wondering, artists, the music itself could be the song, and how often maybe it's played on air. It could be the script that has been written, and it has a writer who might not necessarily be the musician. That one would also want either some royalties or something like that. The caller tune itself, who does it belong to, the scriptwriter or the musician? Just take us through that, so we can have a clear understanding of these matters.
I could say the thing that needs copyright is someone's intellectual property. Unfortunately, I don't think we can say it's the song, because man, there's a lot of things you find on the song. Sometimes it's the harmony, sometimes it's the feel. Like me and you might not really put a thing to it. For example, the way you can't really put a thing to what part of Michael Jackson's Dirty Diana was put on Burna Boy's Monsters You Made, but there is that feel of Dirty Diana on Monsters You Made. But you can't really point to it, but it is there. So like a lot of things, it's intellectual property, but this could be the words, it could be the phrase, it could be the sound, it could be, okay, the moral is, yeah, you have your voice on it. Like it's a lot of things that end up being copyrighted or that end up being owned. When artists fight for this, or when artists fight for this, one, they're fighting for their right to be able to defend themselves if I take it. That if I take their song and use it without their permission, they have a way of defending themselves, that so and so used my thing. That's one of the reasons why
All right.
copyright
We're glad
is
we
badly
have an
needed.
artist here, no doubt about it, who could take us through, not even take us through, but walk with us, hold our hand, and tell us what are your pain points, reservations when it comes to the content that you've created over the years. It could be the music, it could be the beat, it could be everything that you seek copyright for, and what you think you should be able to benefit from.
So the pain points, first I've mentioned about the CRBTs. CRBTs, that is when you use my music to, you know how people listen to the music when you call someone. Those are the CRBTs.
Yep.
Yeah. So when it comes, by the time my song becomes a CRBT, I have invested in it. And mind you, no CRBT is not a hit. I mean,
Okay.
by the time the telecom company gets interested in my song becoming a CRBT, that means I have invested and it has become something visible. I've put in money, so there's no way you can give me 1.8 when I'm the owner of the thing with my intellectual property, and I'm the producer, I'm the investor. So for the 60%, we are good to go. Then when it comes to other points where we earn money, there is that is why we are arguing for the private copy levy. Private copy levy. For example, this is a digital era where everyone can access our music at any point.
That's right.
This is a Uganda where you find people selling flashes. I'm selling a flash, 10,000 music for free. You just buy a flash, but music is?
The music is free. Yeah.
So that is why we are arguing that we need the private copy levy. What do I mean by the private copy levy? A fee put on those gadgets, like phones, flash, anything which can
CDs,
hold
anything that
music.
can hold music.
This is a digital era where music, gone are the days when we knew where to get the music, the kasimukiras, the whatever, the tapes, what. But at this moment, you can get my music without my consent. But I've invested in money.
And you could also receive music without your own consent.
Without your own consent.
It could pop up.
Yeah.
It is a two-way traffic.
That's right.
So that is why we say we need a private copy levy on such gadgets from the, okay, we tap it from there. Currently, the government is trying to say it is investing in the creative sector, but it is dealing with individuals. It is not investing in the infrastructures. How are we going to get the infrastructures when it's individuals who get money? If you're spending over...
But then again, because I've read quite a lot about the private copy, and it generates a lot of money in all industries where it's working. It's working in Malawi. They generate a lot of money, but the problem is most of them have failed to find a way of distributing the money through artists, and some of them have either found, say, a foundation where the money that comes from private
a fund
or something.
Yeah, you create a fund.
My problem was, much as Ugandans have been vouching for this, it doesn't seem like there is a clear channel of what is going to happen to the money that comes from the private levy.
We have a clear channel. We can't talk about something that we don't.
Which one is that?
Okay, a private copy levy, we have to create a fund. Actually, it is collected by revenue. So what we need here, CMOs can come together. We have CMOs for music, that is UPRS. We have a CMO for writers, for the books, that is Euro. We have that for movies. So when they come together, they form that organization. Its only job is getting and distributing. Actually, they can even sit down and say, okay, instead of distributing, what don't we have? Currently, Ugandan creative sector is facing a problem of infrastructures. We don't actually, it is a threat. We have so many threats as artists. Royalties, infrastructure, what to do. Now you can look at different venues. They charge a lot of money. You can find that an artist is not gaining money. That is why you see organizers are fighting with musicians, because the other one think this one has got money. It is too much money. So if we can come up with that organization which can collect our levy, and then we sit and say, what do we want? Can we distribute? What do we need? We need infrastructures. What, like, we need arenas. We need that is a fund where we can plan for the sector.
The harmonization.
Because right now, I don't see the
arenas,
government looking at planning for the sector.
True.
Actually, they are ignoring this sector, but then it is the sector which is self-made. We don't need the UNBS to check on our product. We can already sell, but there is a way. They are not giving it an eye.
But then, Fina, you see, you're running into a situation, of course, you've dealt with artists, you know them, you know how they be.
But if you deal with them, you get to know them.
Yes. So one, they are not really thinking the way you're thinking. They will listen, they will wake up and they will listen to something like, this year we collected over 20 billion. And an artist somehow expects to get some of that 20 billion, like because he had a hit. Like he will not really understand that the money from the private copy is going to a fund. Like for them, the next thing you will hear is these people are stealing our money.
Andrew, let me correct you somehow, somewhere. Before coming to this, don't think that it is Fina who sat down and thought about it. We have organizations, we have structures, we sit with the leaders and think about what we're supposed to do. And then if I'm to inform you, a revolution is not created by very many people. So we are good to go. We are good to go. As a leadership in the creative sector, if we don't sit down and think about the creative sector, we won't see this sector in the next, I don't know how it is going to become. Otherwise, I call upon all the people, all the professionals in the creative sector, please come on board, don't keep quiet. Come, we sit and think about this sector.
All right, let me ask Andrew Kagwa, and this is in search for a benchmark upon which, for example, the Ugandan artists and all stakeholders can readily and conveniently hold on to. South Africa, maybe. Nigeria, I think it's making headway in ensuring that the copyright laws and everything around that is rectified. Is there anything that you think ought to be replicated? Because when I see and hear stories about Burna Boy and these are the WizKid, they're able to streamline their incomes, and it's a steady flow. There's absolutely no controversies on no earnings or somebody sidestepping them. Is there anything we are benchmarking?
One, Nigeria is as confused as Uganda.
At least they are confused. That they are not too confused.
They are as confused as Uganda. The only difference is they have a profitable industry on their hands. That's whether someone is eating someone's money or not. Because Nigerians are still finding they are still finding their albums on streets, albums they did not produce. Okay, like you released an album, it was just digital, and then you find CDs. And then you find the CDs on the streets. You find CDs on the streets, and you're like, wow, I did CDs. So and Nigerians are still being hounded by some guy who makes CDs, and you're like, hey guy, thank you very much, you made me this much money, I gift you a car. Because at least I know that happened to one of the P-Square brothers, and that was like 2 years back. One of the local guys that banned CDs gifted him a car, like, you've made me so rich. And then he looked at the guy, he didn't know whether he should be happy or arrest him. Like, it was a situation of, okay, like, you've gifted me a car. But I don't understand how to feel about this. So they as disorganized as, probably even more disorganized than we are. It's just that they have a very productive industry on their hands. They have corporate companies that are pumping money into the artists, and then of course they have many artists who are not even registered to their own industry, like they are registered to other collecting societies, so the chaos that happens in Nigeria doesn't affect them as much. But if we are to benchmark one, I would prefer Malawi, not South Africa, because South Africa is light years ahead of us. They are not really operating as an African industry. They've been operating with record labels since the 80s, and record labels as big as Sony. So they are way ahead of us when it comes to the way they handle their programs. But I would say Malawi, because one, Malawi could be poorer than us when it comes to GDP and everything. We are the same level creatively. We could be better than them. But when it comes to fighting for Africa to see us, we are almost at the same level. We could even be ahead of them. I don't think Malawi has a chameleon. And Malawi actually likes chameleon, like the Ugandan chameleon.
All right.
But for some reason, even with all that, there is a way Malawi has figured out one, royalty collection, and collecting it in large numbers. For them, the game changer was the private levy bill. They got it and they managed to get a lot of money, and with that they kind of created a fund where if you're creating an album, you can actually apply to get a fund. You use it to create your album, you pay some back, but of course you'll also have made money from it. So it kind of keeps the industry running, that even if you're a new artist, you have a chance of actually producing quality music. But then even besides that, they protect their own, and that's not even copyright, it's more in policy. They protect their own, where they're like, if Burna Boy is coming to Malawi to perform, we know that if he spends an hour on stage, a Malawian artist is losing opportunity. So we shouldn't let Burna Boy be on stage for an hour. If he's on stage for an hour, every minute that goes after the 1 hour should be paid for differently. So because of that, what organizers usually do is, if I have Burna Boy, if he has been on stage for 45 minutes, I'll try to pair Burna Boy with a Malawian artist. And the magic that might happen on that stage, what this artist will learn from Burna Boy will not leave the artist the same.
All right. Okay, let's continue this conversation after this very short break, and of course try to iron out the aspects that might be clearer and that are, of course, low-hanging fruits for the industry in order to streamline some of the controversies and ensure that people begin to earn some money. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. I'm happy that you're still with us here as we try to make our way around what is no doubt a maze when it comes to copyright issues within the arts industry, and of course the ability for one to earn from their creativity, their ingenuity and their originality, especially when it comes to what they put out there. Earlier we heard about what appears to be inconsistencies, especially with regard to the mandates, but also the laws that help put things clear on how and where some of this money should be coming and at what point to the artists. During the break, the discussion, of course, went on, and some other aspects did emerge. Fina Mugera will be, of course, talking about that very, very shortly. But allow me just continue the aspect that we were on, the issue of benchmarking. But the relationship locally, and this is, as I see it, something that could be affecting appreciation of copyright law and how somebody can be able to earn some money. The relationship between promoters and the artists themselves. At this point, or at this level, it is more like localization of copyright. Yeah, when a performer has gone into an agreement with a promoter to do a certain show, a concert somewhere, the payment mode is defined by parameters. Some could be, you're paying me because that is what you have for me. Another could be, you're paying me because that is what I want as my rate for a particular performance and the geography and whatever that happens. I don't know whether there is a standardized rate card, for example, that performers and promoters are using right now. Is it anything? Is it happening like that?
It is the artist to have a rate card.
The artist.
It is the artist because
Yes.
it is your product. You know your worth. You should create your rate card.
Yeah, the reason I want to hammer that down is because you could have a rate card as an artist, or you could well know your worth, but then somebody is not willing to pay you for that worth, but they have an offer. And then in something more like a compromise, you agree to what they are offering, not necessarily because it's what you want, but you could be struggling, you're an artist and you want to make some money. And when you do that, it means the next time you won't ask for a higher price because you've already been able to take what was offered at one point in time. How does that work?
First, before I comment about that, in this business and in any other business, you should get to know who you are and what you like.
Yeah.
And know your worth. If you come to FINA, I know my rate card. And I know why I have that rate card. And I try as much as possible to be unique and creative so that you can be in alignment with my rate card.
And
so that is me and appreciate it. So for the artists there, you should go in for something that you understand. Where you're comfortable. Don't do things to make people happy. Don't perform because you want to do an appearance. Unless you have something else that I want to appear and do this. That is you. That is knowing yourself. Persona. So don't go into something, it won't be now the government to negotiate for you. Know what you like. So before I also continue with that, and when it comes to shows still on the rights, we are localizing now.
Yeah.
Under knowing your rights. These days, promoters hire artists. But then at the end of the day, you see the show streaming live on TV. What kind of agreement have you made with the promoter? Yeah. Is it performance? Is live streaming part of it? So that one you also go into it. But then here, they talked about amendment of section 13. They talked about agreements and licenses being prescribed by the procedure. The minister may, by regulations, prescribe the procedure for registration of a contract of assignment. I think this draft is giving the minister too much powers. It has to reduce the powers. We don't want what we want. Actually, it gave the minister the contracts. That is unbelievable, and it is I don't know. Then when it comes to tariffs, you can't tell me that the minister should get involved. So this draft is giving the minister too much powers. We need to decline. We need to look into that. So special rates. That is why we ask for a body. That is also copyright. These issues of contracts, licenses, they should be regulated or governed by a body. Another problem we have in the copyright issue, the regulators are also compromised. This draft also talks about empowering. It is not empowering the collecting societies, rather giving the powers to the regulators. Now, like URSB, when it comes to the board, you can't tell me that you're a regulator and you need members on the board. How are you going to make decisions? You're the one on the board. And the board is a strategic board that plans for the CMO. Now you're there. How are you going to regulate your members who are there?
Of course, one of the things I wanted to know is, are they mentioning URSB anywhere? Because, I mean, URSB anywhere.
Is a regulator.
I mean, are they mentioning UPRS anywhere?
When you talk about collecting societies, because it is not the only collecting society. We have that of books, Euro, we have that of UMI. When it comes to copyright, it is not all about music only. The whole sector.
One thing I've noticed when it comes to music is the collecting body is not empowered, and artists are not members of the collecting body, even when most of them complain about the collecting body not giving them their money. And one of the reasons they are not members is some don't even know how to join.
They are not contented. Actually, at this moment, even some artists think UPRS is an association of musicians. So that is the worst point where there is no enough awareness. We've just fought for the board to have more members for the artists. Recently, we had 6 members from URSB. And we had 5 or 4 from the artists. So how would decisions be made?
one is compelled to think that the goings on and what appears to be a lack of forward thinking is part of the process of reorganizing. That's what I would assume. But the process of reorganizing, as you say, requires an anchor, like the board, so to speak. And arriving at that need is something that requires concerted effort. I do not know whether it's a lone call from your, what's the organization that your vice president at?
UNCC?
I don't know whether it's a lone call by UNCC or it's a case of so many voices and there is a lack of unity. Does the federation, I've heard of is it 3-2 federations coming up?
There is a federation and an association.
Federation, association. All right. So who is saying what and who is on board with some of the aspects that you talk about? Or they also have a totally different agenda?
They don't have a different agenda. Actually, we are all looking at the same thing. We are all looking at the same thing, but holding sometimes people are speaking from different corners. But at this moment, we are as a team, as under the National Culture Forum. National Culture Forum brings together all the associations and the federations, and that is how we sat down and came up with this submission in regards to corporate. That means we are the same. In Uganda's constitution, there is freedom of association. Everyone is free to associate with anywhere, any association he or she likes, whether it's a federation or it's a union. So when it comes to associating, that is the liberty of all members. But when it comes to this, I'm telling you, we are one, we are a team. We are not fighting, but we are advocating. And this is a creative sector, not only for musicians. We have collective societies which belong to different creators. So we are speaking as the voice of the creative sector. That is why we say when we come up with a board, it will work. And it can also regulate, it can manage PCL. For PCL, I was still talking about how the government can invest in the creative sector. At this moment, I don't know, you know, sometimes the law becomes weaker when it comes to politics. Yes, but I think if it is to do with empowering the creative sector, the government shouldn't think about empowering individuals. We don't need handouts. We need such things. We need these laws be amended. We need the infrastructures to help even these artists who don't have access to go to that White House. So we need to create a foundation for the creative sector. We need to see the coming Finas enjoying and not suffering like the Fina. I'm here, but I came into the sector when all this was not there. But right now I've come up to advocate for it, for the better of the upcoming artists. So we don't need the handouts. We need the government to sit with us and we speak about what the industry, not as an individual Fina, likes. All right. The industry.
Andrew, is there an artist in the country who is earning money on international platforms because their music is maybe enjoyed across borders?
I could say Joshua Baraka.
Joshua Baraka.
Yeah.
Okay. Take us through how his money is being made. I don't want to put him in a spot.
Okay. It's totally not connected to the copyright. He's doing well on streaming platforms. Okay. Of course, when you're doing well on streaming platforms, naturally, there is a bit of it that's supposed to come to the collecting society. I do not know if he's a member of UPRS, but he would be if he was a member. Though, yeah, he's doing very well on Apple Music. I think him making 1 million listens is like a piece of cake for much of his music on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And his music is consumed very well in both Nigeria and Kenya, and he does his collaborations quite very well. He knows how to look for Nigerians and collaborate with them, South Africans and Kenyans. and all these countries have a very strong streaming culture than Uganda has. So I think that also explains why he's the artist with the biggest number of listeners, monthly listeners on Spotify. Though, just to explain something which I think most artists usually do not get right when it comes to copyright, because there was a time an artist said that his song would have sent him to retirement if our copyright worked well. And then I was telling them Mariah Carey is not yet retired, and her Christmas album is #1 every year for the past 25 years. One, copyright works very well for you when your music is in demand, when people actually want to work with your music. If no one is working with your music, if no one is listening to your music, regardless of how you have a very good law, it will not work for you, which means you still need to put in that effort for people to love your music, for people to want to use your music, for copyright to work for you. Because I feel like most of the times when I hear artists talk, they tend to forget that. They're like, yeah, I did my music and I got nothing out of it. And at times we don't even know the song these people are talking about. So copyright to work very well for you, your music must be in demand. People might need to use it, even if it's to use it in a film, in an advert, people must want to use it. And the beauty about films and adverts is that when you approached, you ask for any money you want because they want it.
At that point they want it, and you can, of course, like she said earlier, ensure that the rate is yours and you get no offers that do not meet that particular standard. We are going into another break because it's bottom of the hour of 8 o'clock. When we return, we shall wrap this conversation up and, of course, ensure that the rest of the programming does continue. Do stay with us. All right, we return again, and of course, we inch closer to the close of Morning at NTV and the final bend of the Kickstarter discussion. The conversation behind the scenes is one that has people in fits of laughter, and of course, that is down to the fact that there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of inconsistencies, contradictions, and the fact that the politics of the day maybe could also be influencing and determining many of the things that are happening within the industry. And if you can, for example, I was going to use a word that shouldn't be used, but if you can, for example, put the minister away from some of the aspects that they might not readily understand because of their political portfolios, maybe it could begin the process of realignment. Gentlemen and lady, we, of course, doing a wrap on this discussion, and we need to understand the way forward and how things are going to work out in case things move the way you want them to move. If they don't move the way you want them to move, what is the next course of action for artists, especially those that appear not to be as knowledgeable as you are? Because believe me not, I am astounded by the fact that you do understand your rights, first of all, the way you do. It is something I don't hear among many other artists, and maybe it's because or rather it's why they don't earn this money, and that is down to awareness. Is there any effort away from what is being mooted that you're doing to enlighten some of your colleagues, especially the younger ones? Because they need some bit of mentoring, don't they?
Yeah, they need it. First of all, we need to create more awareness about the artistic rights. They need to know their rights. I always tell them in every function that I always interact with them. I always advise them to have knowledge about what they're doing, get to know when you earn, get to know how you can make a loss, get to know your business. We are entrepreneurs, artists, you are entrepreneurs. This is your business. Get to know, you should know your balance sheet, get to know when you earn, when are you going to get the losses. Look at the loopholes, otherwise this is a business. This is your wealth. This is your wealth which will make your life and your children and your grandchildren be happy for the rest of their lives. So don't look at being an artist as in enjoying, as a passion. What it can be a passion, but then just know you are an entrepreneur. Then in regards to that, I humbly request the Parliament and the people in charge. Actually, we are taking it back on the 12th, on the 15th of October. We are including the private copy levy. The private copy levy, we want it to benefit the artists themselves and then the industry itself, because we have a lot on the table when it comes to supporting the industry, not through handouts, but creating a foundation for the industry. Then for this draft, it is giving a lot of powers to the minister. We really need these powers to be adjusted. When we have a department, okay, as they suggested, as a department, this department should be empowered. And then this draft should also empower the collecting societies, because they are the people in charge of the copyright. We need a body which helps, which should be the custodians of the copyright. We need those scattered mandates to come together so that we can plan for copyright. Otherwise, artists, kindly get to know about your rights. Get to know about your business people, your entrepreneurs, and you contribute to the GDP of the country. We have so many threats in the creative sector when it comes to earning, and for the artists, I talked about the regulators being sometimes compromised. We have then when it comes to copyright, we have merchandise. Everyone can have a t-shirt with any artist, so there is no whatever. When it comes to shows, my dear, the police is getting all the money. By the time you start your show, police has already earned.
Wait a minute. Tell us about that.
Oh my God. We need a single door. We need a single. Actually, one time when we had an interaction with the police, he said, for us, we took up the mandate because you people were keeping quiet. That was their submission. But you can't tell me that the police, you're the one giving permission to everyone. I think police is supposed to give security. But I can't tell you that you're giving permission for...
I love Uganda police.
So,
these guys are not sleeping.
They've really lobbied their thing, but but I think we should sit down and
maybe they saw the vacuum was there.
Providing
for security, the vacuum for permission was identified very quickly, and there was a reluctance on your part.
My dear, when it comes to clearance, you have to pay at the IGP level, RDC level, RPC, DPC, anti-terrorist, traffic. Do you know how much money is that?
All right.
It's too much.
And these days it's very funny, like, you know, someone could come and do, say, like a church event in a place, and they kind of just do it. When it comes to an artist doing an event in the same place, probably at times in the same manner, the approach totally becomes different.
And let me ask, by the way, most of these places they charge at a higher rate. They are public places like Lugogo Arena.
I think artists,
they are public places.
Secular music and gospel, the attractions are different.
The same.
The attractions are different, and the intensity.
Actually,
of crowds,
one side even has more numbers. Like one side ends up pulling more numbers because, like, when it comes to spirituality, you don't even need to beg people; they will show up.
Yeah.
But okay, for me, I think one of the things that I would need is one. We need a lot of honesty. One, from the government and the authority, and then we need honesty from the artists. I think it's time artists start publishing their losses and their wins, which kind of helps us see what exactly is going on. Like I would love to know how much an artist contributed to the economy when they had their show. Like if you tell me this number of people came in, this money was given to the police, like we actually get to know. Because
at the end of a concert.
At the end of a concert.
Yeah. Because
I feel like we should be at that level where we should be like, we are doing this much. How much are you actually giving back to the industry?
It goes back to this thing of bookkeeping. When we met with URA, we were like, so what is your basis when it comes to charging the show? Someone who has done a show. So they say, we look at the chairs. We look at how many tables. They don't have any criteria. We look at the tables, but then it's all it gets us all back to one table. Artists, we should get to know how to do record keeping. When do you spend? Then these public places, my dear, isn't the Lugogo Arena a public place? Why do they have to pay that much?
Is it?
It's a public place.
It is.
Things change in Uganda.
Those indoors, they are public places. Why pay that too much money? And that is why artists keep boxing the promoters, because they think they've taken their money.
Some places are
so
public,
we should
but
look
some are
into that.
private.
So where are the public places that can at least show that the government is supporting the creative sector? Because right now people are paying. There is no way you can tell me someone is paying 70 million. Security, 20 million, stage, 30, how much money is he going to get? That is too much money. Business, it is becoming a threat.
These days, venues are, most of the venues are 30 million, and then you're spending about 60 on the stage, and now there is that for security, and trust me, you're spending more than 100 before you get on stage.
Interesting.
And the ticket is 20K.
I'd wanted to know exactly the chairs that URA counts. Are they the ones before the show, or as the show is?
Yeah, they just come in and say, now it is this and that. But then this one, I would love it. We need to meet a URA. As UNCC, we need a meeting with the URA, and we get to know on how we are supposed to do that thing as a team. Otherwise, the promoters are losing, artists are losing. Actually, the creative sector should be a priority, not in the other way that it is being done, but a priority professionally, formally.
All right, Andrew, I want you to wrap this up for us, because I also need to understand how things are working for beneficiaries of copyright in other areas other than the music industry. Authors, writers, are these ones more streamlined, or it's again the very same problems that the musicians are facing?
They're not streamlined as much, but I could also say they abandoned us. Okay, they abandoned the industry, many of them. 80% of our very good authors are not publishing in Uganda, so they kind of get a leeway not to care about things that are happening here. Mainly because someone else is collecting for them, someone else is defending them and everything. And it's almost the same thing that's happening with the film industry. You have like most of your best filmmakers working for foreign producers, and thus they do not have to deal with the situations happening around. I mean, just look at much of the work that came out on the Ugandan film scene in the past 2 years. 90% of that work is owned by MultiChoice. So they do not have to deal with all the tacky business of who is abusing my rights or anything. So it's not good on their side. It's just that they are no longer working with the industry. They kind of avoided working with the industry.
Investors are no longer, we are losing investors in the industry. I don't know why Sudil can't invest in the creative sector, but these are the threats why they are running away. But then there is money, big money in the creative sector when you happen to sit down and understand it. So we call upon even the investors of Uganda. There are so many people who can come and build.
I mean, those guys who buy, who gift musicians when you have those special tables at the front of the stage, and when you're going about, screaming into the microphone, and there are those guys who give you a lot of money. They should be able to.
They're gifting an individual.
They're gifting an individual. Yeah. They're not appreciating the music.
They're not like we would like to see people invest in the industry as the industry.
I think we have not yet put them to speed.
Haven't you? Have you approached them with some sort
we need to sit down and then come up with an investment program and show them how they can gain from actually we're also meeting the Uganda Investment Authority, and we get to know how we can interest the investors with the creative sector. Otherwise there is money that we're not showing.
Truth is at the moment the industry has not made its case when it comes to return on investment, because if we see a show that has sold out and the artist comes out and says, I did not actually make money, even when they sold out, it's like you're telling the investor not to actually invest in that business.
Yeah.
And usually it is said that money hates noise. And now that there's a lot of noise in your sector,
Money hates
it's very
noise.
difficult to for an investor to say, here I am, and I want to inject billions into processes to ensure that we get a lot more money. Many thanks, Fina Mugira, for joining us this morning and ensuring that we are on the same page, especially with regard to the goings on in rectifying what's no doubt a long-standing issue within the industry. And many thanks to you too, the usual suspect, Andrew Kagwa. It's always a pleasure having you on board. And for the team behind the scenes, it's, well, thank you for everything. For the last 2 hours on Friday, we begin at 7 o'clock because we are going into the weekend and we must urge Ugandans. Let me just draw back to the story of the census. We have a lot of statistics right now. Please take time and read the newspapers so that you understand the demographics at play. Getting that information right is important, especially if you are in any business. You should know which particular cluster of the population is going to buy your product, where they are, what do they think, what are their sentiments, how do they reason out some of the things, so that if you are frustrated along the way, you can know how to pivot quickly and then realign your business. The tendency for blind operations is a thing of the past, and this information is very, very critical. Also read about the controversial marriage bill, the one that Minister Opendi is seeking. If you have been cohabiting for more than 3 years, the minister wants you to go to prison. If you also want to know the DNA of your children, you cannot do that before a court order. For civil marriages, she says those ones you allowed to be polygamous. Interesting developments here, and I think somebody should be able to offer this minister a job somewhere so she can be a little bit busy. Otherwise, there's a lot of things she's up to. That will do it for Morning at NTV today. I'm Chris Higenyi. Have yourselves a lovely day.